Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Codo's Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, and before I go into my list today, I just want to let you know that I had a schedule change in one of my class schedules or extracurriculum activity schedules, so I had to push my podcast to a different time. So I am doing my podcast for Codo's Cinema on Thursdays for this semester now, although it will still be in the same time slot. So, anyway, today I'm going to rank all 12 Star Wars movies by least favorite to the best. Now, you guys are probably wondering, this deals with all 9 Star Wars movies from the Skywalker saga, including the 3 spin-off movies. And for those of you wondering if I saw the 2008 Star Wars The Clone Wars movie, yes. Yes, I have. So, you'll probably hear this on the list. Now, I am only including theatrical movies on this list, so don't expect to hear any TV shows on this list, like the 2D animated Star Wars The Clone Wars by Genndy Tartakovsky, the 2008 CGI Star Wars The Clone Wars TV show, Star Wars Rebels, and The Mandalorian, despite the shows being awesome. I am also excluding made-for-TV movies, so no Star Wars Ewok Adventures here or the Star Wars Holiday Special. And for starters, this ranking is based off of my opinion, and for the record, I love Star Wars. Star Wars is probably one of the greatest movie franchises of all time. From the story to the characters, musical score by John Williams, special effects, among many great elements that are set in a galaxy far, far away. So, anyway, have a seat, grab your popcorn, ignite your lightsaber, because we are about to go into hyperdrive to a galaxy far, far away. Alright, here we go. And just also be clear, and this is a big one, guys. Spoilers ahead. All right, here we go. Number 12, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the 2008 movie version. Yep. This is probably the lowest. This is probably the lowest on my list. But anyway, kicking off the list is probably the only Star Wars movie to be animated, even though. Yeah, technically, it might be the only one that is animated. But anyway, now the reason why Star Wars: The Clone Wars is low on my list is the fact that first time being released, it wasn't really that good. I mean, although I do love the characters, and it does set between episodes 2 and 3 of the prequel trilogy, which is actually pretty good. Although many people see this movie is because of how the story is being told, including the writing itself. Although I thought some of the writing moments in Star Wars: The Clone Wars is good. I do love the characters though, and I thought the animation was okay. But at the time it was released, the animation wasn't really that good. But because it's just a CGI animated movie, and yeah, it makes sense because some animated movies tend to be hit or miss depending on like the animation itself. Although most of the animation is good nowadays, but anyway, it wasn't all bad, but still ends up on my list to being low. But at least we got a good TV show. At least we got a good Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show. Like I said, I thought the story was okay. I mean, it wasn't the best. I mean, the lightsaber battles were actually okay. I mean, it was less than what we got. And some of the action sequences were pretty good. We got to see the clone troopers. We got to see Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, including some new additional characters, particularly Ahsoka Tano, to which she also serves in the Clone Wars TV series, including the Star Wars Rebels show. So anyway, kind of a misfire, but at least we got a good show. Anyway, moving on. Number 11, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Ooh, I ain't probably gonna not make many friends with this next choice. Alright, guys. Hear me out. I don't have anything against the Star Wars sequel trilogy. I never did. I literally love all Star Wars, but unlike many Star Wars films, they have a few duds, okay? And this one is probably my least favorite Star Wars movie. So anyway, let's check it out. So anyway, Star Wars: The Last Jedi takes place after the events of The Force Awakens. Now, listen, guys. I really love Star Wars: The Last Jedi. It's actually a pretty good movie, although I can understand why people dislike this movie. Now, here's the thing. It all has to deal with the writing itself. The writing was on the wall, although some of the writing was actually pretty good, but like the writing itself was actually not that good. I'll admit I did get a chuckle out of the scene of Kylo Ren and his built body. Hey, some villains gotta have a built body to. I mean, just saying, but. Yeah, I kind of did get a chuckle out of that, including the porgs as well. I actually thought the porgs were pretty cute, and some moments out of Luke Skywalker were pretty good. But aside from that, the writing for Luke's character was a little bit out of character. But at the same time, still a good movie. But I can understand why a lot of people dislike this movie. But the biggest offender was basically the Canto Bight sequence, which was basically a useless plot point to what the film is trying to do. Basically, a lot of this film kind of sets around that Canto Bight, that casino planet, which kind of drags the film down. But if I were to go back in time to fix it, why not have Lando in that scene? Lando Calrissian. He would have actually been a pretty good codebreaker because part of this movie had to deal with a code. Part of it was the fact that the rebels were being tracked by the First Order, and this what actually would have been good is that Lando Calrissian would have been a pretty good code breaker. Although sadly, though, we didn't get a code breaker. But at least I thought Benicio del Toro's character as DJ was actually okay. But still, the writing was all over the place. Although the action sequences are good too, the story was all right. It's just the writing. It's just the writing that literally drags it down. Although the some of the twists were good, not to mention the Snook's death was actually a big surprising one, which leads into episode 9, which is actually pretty good. Which is actually pretty surprising too. Especially the final battle sequence between Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren. I thought that was actually pretty powerful and entertaining. Gives in a good twist. Not to mention Rian Johnson actually wrote and directed Star Wars Episode 8 long before Knives Out, which he also wrote and directed. So technically, I mean, it still serves as a good standalone Star Wars movie, but still, the writing itself was basically the problem with this movie, and that's why a lot of people disliked it. That's why it's kind of ranked lower on my list. But I'm sorry for putting this on the lower part of my list, man. But I have to anyway. But not to mention, the writing itself in this movie kind of makes the prequel trilogies a little better. Just my opinion. But speaking of which, moving on. Number 10, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Speaking of writing in the prequels, yep, the writing in the prequel trilogy wasn't always that good, but it did get better. It did get better in recent years. I mean, some of it actually sounds better in recent years. So yes, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace is probably the lowest of the Star Wars movies on this movies of all time, but not on this list. Is actually Star Wars Episode 1 is actually entertaining at best. I mean, true, waiting 16 years after the original came out in 1977 is a long time, but you have to admit, I mean, it's still a good movie. Yes, the writing was bad. Some of the characters were kind of annoying, particular Jar Jar Binks. Sorry, Jar Jar. I mean, I know you're a funny guy, but you're kind of annoying. I'm very sorry, man. No offense, I'm very sorry. But anyway, the story itself is not that bad. Writing was on the wall for that, but actually we did get a couple of good action sequences, like the pod race sequence, and of course, the final battle itself. Darth Maul going up against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. That is definitely the highlight of Episode 1. Probably the greatest Star Wars moment and lightsaber battle of all time. Literally a great moment. And while we did get to see Darth Maul more in Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars The Phantom Menace still considers a low point of the Star Wars franchise, but it still serves as a somewhat entertaining movie. But still in the category of so bad it's good. Kind of like Star Wars The Clone Wars. Alright, moving on. Number 9, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, Attack of the Clones is considered to be somewhat of an improvement over Episode One, but some people also consider it to be the worst installment of the Star Wars series. I mean, now it's not that I'm saying it's bad, but yes, the only thing that kind of did drag down Star Wars Episode Two, Attack of the Clones, was probably the sand quote. Yes, that sand quote alone was probably the worst part of it. Yes, I get it. That was a trigger among fans. But aside from that, we actually had a pretty decent story. I mean, a little bit improved. We got to see more of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hey, Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi is still good. I'll admit, it's still good. And yes, the romantic chemistry between Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, yeah, I know, that was a little bit of a low point, but although some moments between the two were actually pretty good. I mean, we did get to see a couple of new villains, particularly Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee, including Jango Fett, played by Tamara Morrison, to which his character was a bounty hunter wearing Mandalorian outfit. Hey, or armor. Sorry. Hey, at least we get to see a Mandalorian in this one. Looks like we got some Mandalorian vibes coming out. But anyway, yes, the story itself is okay. A little improved, but still kind of bad in terms of writing. But the movie itself is actually pretty good. Plus, we also got a huge lightsaber battle from all the Jedi Knights on the planet Geonosis during the battle, to which was probably the only Star Wars movie we get to see all the Jedi Knights come together to battle the droid army. Probably one of the greatest Star Wars prequel moments of all time. Literally the greatest moment in that movie. So, especially the battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Count Dooku, especially Yoda. Yoda's moment was also the best part in this movie as well, fighting off against Count Dooku. So, yep, even though it's kind of bad, but hey, it still serves as a pretty good movie. All right, moving forward. Number 8, Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker. Now, for those of you who didn't hear my last podcast, I did put Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker on number 10 of my list of my top 10 favorite movies of 2019. So, you can probably go check that out as well. Anyway, now Star Wars Episode 9 was actually kind of an improvement over Star Wars Episode 8, but still, it kind of did lag on a little bit. Although I thought the movie itself was actually pretty good, but the problem with this movie was basically the pacing story. Literally, the pacing was so quick in the first act, like you don't even know what's going on. And some of the fan theories were cleaned up a little bit, but still, it's just the fact of the aftermath of The Last Jedi was probably the one that kind of derailed a little bit of Episode 9. Although Episode 9 Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is good, we finally get to see Rey become a Jedi Knight. We get to see Kylo Ren's story arc being redeemed. I thought Kylo Ren's redemption at the end of the movie was actually pretty good, from being an emo villain to an actually pretty good guy, which is actually pretty good, which I thought was pretty good. Say what you will about that love sequence at the end of the movie, but like I said, the redemption for Kylo Ren was actually probably one of the few moments that was actually pretty good. I do like the action sequences good though. The Emperor's return actually surprised me a lot. Like, I wasn't expecting the Emperor to return, played by Ian McDiarmid, who actually nails the role of the Emperor. Believe me, he did a pretty good job playing the Emperor. But still, like I said, the story itself was okay. It was a little bit rushed, but we did get to see Lando Calrissian return in this movie. Anyway, I almost forgot to mention, and I did mention this before on the other list, Carrie Fisher's performance as Princess Leia will be her last, as footage from The Force Awakens was used in this movie. So anyway, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. May the Force be with you. Alright? Okay. Moving on. Number 7, Solo, A Star Wars Story. probably one of the another spinoff on this list is the Han Solo movie that I'm pretty sure no one kind of asked for, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people did ask for Han Solo to have his own solo movie. Probably a Star Wars pun right there. Anyway, this solo Star Wars story sets the origin story of Han Solo, and yes, this film wasn't that good in terms of box office performance and with some critics. Although it was a fun and entertaining ride, and it did lead for more open door opportunities because this movie itself is actually a space western movie. This is like probably one of the few space western movies we get to see in a Star Wars movie, which is actually pretty good. Although I think the few highlights of this movie was actually Lando Calrissian, played by Donald Glover, which is probably one of the few highlights of the solo Star Wars movie, which I think was actually pretty good. We get to see Lando Calrissian and Han Solo meet for the very first time. Yes, I understand we all know who Han Solo is, but it's actually the behind the scenes moments. But here's the thing. This film was originally going to be directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, but they were fired due to creative differences, and they were replaced by Ron Howard, who declined to direct The Phantom Menace, which is actually surprising. Now, to be fair, though, I think Ron Howard did a very good job putting together a solo Star Wars story. But as interesting as Phil Lord and Christopher Miller's version would have been, this film still serves as a somewhat of not so good, but actually entertaining Star Wars spin-off movie. And this would have been the last time a family member of Ron Howard has stepped in to direct to direct something for Star Wars. His daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, actually directed Episode 4 of The Mandalorian called Sanctuary, and it did have somewhat of a Jurassic Park vibe to it, particularly during the AT-ST attack sequence. So, yep. So, better hold on to your butts, people. That's probably my only Jurassic Park joke I had in Episode 4 of The Mandalorian. Okay, maybe that came out a little wrong, but still, that was actually a pretty good. That was actually pretty good episode, I'll admit. But hey, pretty good. Okay, moving forward. Number 6, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Probably the only Star Wars spin-off that was actually pretty good. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, was actually one of 2016's greatest movies ever. Now, there were moments that kind of lagged in Rogue One a little bit, but actually the story itself was actually pretty good. Even though I kind of forgot some of the characters, but at least the moments that kind of got me was the ending sequence. The ending sequence where everybody dies in the final battle. That was shocking. And the icing on the cake was Darth Vader's battle against the rebels. It felt like something out of a horror movie. Like, literally, like first time seeing it, I was surprised, and like, I was screaming, like, go! I was like telling the rebels to go, get out of there, get the plans ready. I mean, I couldn't handle myself. I mean, like, this is like one of the most coolest sequences from Darth Vader going up against the rebels. Even though it may be a little scary, but at least on the bright side, though, at least it sets up Episode 4 of Star Wars, which is actually pretty good. Like I said, Rogue One is probably the only Star Wars spin-off that was actually pretty good. But anyway, outside of that, let's jump into one of the original trilogies, or should I say the last film of the original trilogy, which is number 5, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi does give in a good send-off to the original trilogy, even though this film did have a couple of problems. But it still serves as a nice ending to the original Star Wars trilogy. We get to see Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, to become a Jedi Knight. We also finally get to see a somewhat good battle between Boba Fett, even though technically he dies, or did he? Well, who's to say? But anyway, the story itself was actually pretty good. We also get to see the Rebel Alliance going up against the Empire. Darth Vader turning to the light side at the end of the movie. thanks to him killing off the Emperor, especially Darth Vader's battle with Luke Skywalker, including the Ewoks, which I thought they were actually pretty cute. Looked like teddy bears for a little bit, but hey, they were Ewoks, so that was actually pretty cute and fun. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to number 4 on this list. Number 4, Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. Hands down, Revenge of the Sith is probably the best Star Wars movie out of the prequel trilogy. It's literally a great movie. Not to mention because of the action, because of how the story itself is good. The improvement of the writing, even though there's probably some bad writing moments, including the story itself was good. The action sequences were great, but most importantly, the final battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker remains the highlight of Episode 3. It remains the highlight of Episode 3 because it's literally the greatest lightsaber battle between a master and an apprentice. Literally a great moment in that movie. Alright, so anyway, and it also completes Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader. Yep. Okay, moving forward. Number 3, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Star Wars Episode 7 is actually a very good Star Wars movie to kick off the sequel trilogy. And while it's probably the only film that was actually pretty good, this one is basically more fan service than what we got. But anyway, literally we waited a decade to see what we could get out of Star Wars, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens was literally a fan service to enjoy. We get to see brand new characters. We get to see somewhat of a similar story, even though it's kind of a derivative to the original, but it's still a good story. Still a good story that literally sets up the sequel trilogy. Literally, something that we have been waiting for almost a decade since Episode 3, and that is why Star Wars: The Force Awakens ends up on the top 3 of this list. Okay, moving forward. Number 2, Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Taking the number 2 spot is the first ever Star Wars movie. The original Star Wars or Star Wars: A New Hope. Star Wars: A New Hope is basically the first ever Star Wars movie to ever come out of cinema, and it still holds up to this day. Literally a great movie to watch. The story itself is great, and literally the characters: Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia going up against the Empire. Literally a great movie. Star Wars: A New Hope is literally a great movie that literally kicks off the Star Wars franchise and new story ideas to bring into the Star Wars franchise. Literally a great movie. Okay, moving forward. Number 1, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Taking the top spot on this list is considered to be the greatest movie and Star Wars movie of all time. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It's literally the best Star Wars movie out there because the tone of the movie itself is dark. Not to mention the story itself is amazing of how Luke Skywalker trains to become a Jedi Knight, while Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO are going up against the Empire, fighting off against the Empire. Not to mention itself, the ending was literally probably one of the few great endings where even though the hero kind of loses the battle, they still move on until Episode 6. Not to mention the iconic twist itself. Darth Vader being Luke Skywalker's father. One of the greatest Star Wars moments out there that gives audiences a huge surprise and a twist that is to come in this movie. And that is why Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back is number 1 on this list. Okay, and there you have it, folks. My ranking of the Star Wars movies. So what do you guys think? You think I should have ranked this a little better? And if you guys have a better ranking, then pretty good. Okay. All right. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in to Codo's Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo. Have a good week, and as always, have a good weekend. And I'll see you guys next time. So tune in to Codo's Cinema next week. Bye.